When he was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy at the age of 2, my grandfather was quick to assemble a team of rehab therapists and special educators to stimulate his body and brain at that early critical stage. The therapy he received we now call early intervention therapy, and according to the WHO, is essential for children under the age of 6 with all forms of disabilities. My uncle was lucky. He lived in an urban area where rehab specialists were available, and my grandfather had the financial resources. However, in rural areas around the world, many children are not identified as having a disability at an early age, and if identified, a lack of therapists, remoteness, and exorbitant costs prevent families from accessing the therapy their children need. In the state of Tamil Nadu, where we work, there are over 88,000 children with disabilities under the age of 2 with no access to early intervention therapy. We have designed a program that provides a solution to this issue, and it's supported by the MVBRI app, which we've created. Children are screened in nursery schools and community health centers for delayed development with the use of the screening tool in the app. Children identified with a disability are then assessed by our team's rehab specialists who input an individualized therapy plan into the app. Community rehab workers who work for us then provide the early intervention therapy in the child's own home and are guided by the therapy programs set out in the app. Periodic evaluation of children with standardized tools allows for reassessment of goals and treatment plans and allows for impact evaluation and monitoring. Since 2014, we've screened more than 45,000 children for delayed development by over 3,000 health workers and nursery teachers using our app. We have identified and provided therapy to 1,248 children with disabilities. Our research has shown that parents have decreased strain, increased empowerment, and improved child interaction. Cognitive, speech, motor, and social development have shown significant improvement, which has led to 79% of children being integrated into schools. And our team also works with children in the schools to ensure they are integrated along with their peers. In 2020, we have secured funding from the Tamil Nadu government and Grand Challenges to Canada to screen 130,000 children and enroll up to 3,500 to cover 2 full districts. The Tamil Nadu government will then fund other NGOs to replicate our program to cover all 32 districts. The Solve community can give us the support to help us transition from an NGO that provides direct service to a center of excellence, where we train, support, and monitor other NGOs. This will allow us to take our model not just to Tamil Nadu, but to other states and globally, so that every child can reach their maximum potential, even if they have a disability. Thank you.
Pressing issue, congrats on the voting so far. The question is about quality still. Studies show that during the early years, it's more important to have quality education than to be in school at all. So how are you going to, but the statistics also show that teachers don't know how to deal with kids with disability, that the other students don't know how to deal with kids with disability. How are you going to tackle that?
So many of our kids, when they're in school, the community rehab workers, we provide therapy in home, but we also provide therapy in school. Because during the day, they may not be at home, they may be in school. So that gives our community rehab workers an opportunity to see this children in school and advocate. They advocate to teachers about inclusion. They advocate for, a lot of times they've advocated for accommodations, accessibility. And so our goal is to really integrate the children into school along with their peers into mainstream schools, not to have them segregated in other schools or, I think that's, does that answer your question? Okay.
Michael, I'm
I'm curious about your choice to employ the community workers, and wonder about what went behind that, and as you think about scaling to less of a direct service organization, what steps do you see in terms of who you would employ at what level, and what the implications would be? So how you would, I'm curious about whether or not that's the best use of capital at the moment.
Right. So we thought hiring community rehabilitation workers would allow us to empower the local women in the community. A lot of the women that we hire have a direct connection. So they may have a child with a disability themselves, or their child might have been in our early intervention program, or they themselves may have a disability. So it gives us an opportunity to empower them. And it really ensures fidelity when they're employed staff. If they're volunteers, it's harder to sort of control the fidelity of the treatment. And we have a pretty rigorous training program for them. They have 10 days of training when they first start up, and they have ongoing training every few months. We give them a lot of resources, so we're really trying to develop their skills. And if we were to scale up to our whole state, we estimate we need about 4,000 community rehab workers for our state. We've discussed with the government; they're totally on board to fund that, and we've talked to other state governments as well, and they're so far okay with the idea. But depending on the context, we could explore other options, including volunteer task force, if that best suits the requirements of local governments.
It does seem like a lot of the value of your program comes from the people involved in direct service. How important is the app and the related technology?
The app is important in the connection it provides between the community rehabilitation work and the rehab specialist. So the rehab specialist sets out the individualized therapy plan, and the community rehab workers then institutes it. And most importantly, it allows for a lot of data collection. So we're able to collect data on every visit, what the community rehab worker is doing, what their time in, time out was, what the time spent with the child is, as well as the developmental scores in various domains of development. So we're able to track all that through the app, and really we're doing a lot of research, a lot of impact evaluation, and as we scale, we'll have a huge data set to really become a center of excellence for rural early intervention. So that technology aspect is really important for the data collection.